Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. We are expecting more participants to join as we proceed through the morning. So but at the same time, I think based on time, we will get started. So just a massive thank you for joining us and welcome. I am really thrilled to have the opportunity to share with you the prevention and enablement model in Essex. For those that don't know me, my name is Rebecca Jarvis. I am currently the Deputy Director for West Suffolk Alliance, but I have the privilege of speaking to you today as the Strategic Lead for Prevention and Enablement as part of my previous role with Essex County Council. So I'm going to be taking you through this morning's session and introducing you to a group of fantastic people who I've had the pleasure to work with. They'll share with you the work that we and they have been doing to change the way people think about, connect with and use physical activity as a tool to enable health, well-being and independence. And I think it's really important to say, whilst we talk about prevention and enablement model, because actually we're very set and clear on a mission that we are tasked to deliver over the next 12 months, the behavioural and cultural change we're trying to stimulate is so much greater than just a project. What we're trying to do is build a movement of people who think differently about physical activity and recognise the impact it can have on people's lives. Probably like many of you, I've had a love and hate relationship with physical activity across my life, largely because I think the natural connection you make when you talk about activity is exercise, which means lots of different things to lots of different people. But for me, it's so much more than that. And before I talked about PEM and the model itself, I just wanted to touch on a really personal reflection. When I went on maternity leave with my first child, I really struggled adapting from work to home life. I'd spent 29 years of my life being around people, and all of a sudden I wasn't. The novelty of suddenly thinking I don't have to work soon wore off, and everyone I knew was working. So even when my daughter Annie arrived, she kept me busy, but I craved people. I was nervous about going out. What if Annie cried? What would I do? What happens if she was sick? What happens if she did a poo? At first, everyone, including my health visitor, told me to rest. But when she did begin to listen to me and who I was, she really recognised that she needed to think differently about the help she offered me. She linked me to my local postnatal group, which became my weekly highlight. I started walking to and from and the session, my confidence rocketed. I built a network of friends, and it prompted me to try new things and experience new kind of activities with my daughter. So why is any of that important, and why is it important to PEM? Health and care have a massive opportunity. We have a massive opportunity, and we're key in growing an active society. My postnatal group was the turning point for me, but it wasn't the group itself. It was the fact that it got me out, it got me active, and it helped me to grow in confidence. And that, in essence, is what we are trying to drive and shape through the PEM model. PEM builds on that premise to enable people to think differently about the role of health and care and what role we play in helping improve the health of the population. So many of us know, many of us have experienced it. COVID-19 has been the greatest challenge our health and social care system has faced. But before the pandemic, challenges such as an ageing population, entrenched areas of deprivation, growing epidemics like mental health and obesity, increased complexities in long-term health conditions such as dementia, were all impacting on the health of our population and in creating unsustainable demand. Shifting focus from reacting to poor health and well-being, preventing it, and creating opportunities to enable some of the most vulnerable people in our society to live the life they want and deserve to lead were the key drivers in building and shaping the PEM project and what we're trying to achieve. PEM is a partnership, it's collaboration. It is a strategic partnership between Adult Social Care in Essex County Council, Active Essex, Sport for Confidence, and all of our brilliant local delivery partners who are working so closely with us and together to think differently about how we connect and work with citizens. We're on a mission, and the visual shows some of the key objectives we're striving to achieve: to deliver a test and learn, to better understand and evaluate the effectiveness of using physical activity, to stimulate community action, and in how care and support is delivered. But I think, as I said, PEM is much more than raising awareness of the benefits of activity. It's about embedding the principles of activity in how we reach, connect, and support people. Just to finish, before I pass on to my colleague, COVID-19 really has been the biggest challenge, not just for health and social care, but society. This work now more than ever is so important, and we have a really powerful and influential role in supporting people to recover and rebuild their lives from COVID. And I really hope today that you really recognise all of the work we're doing, but really take some of that learning and shape in what you do and how you do it. So I've got the privilege of passing over to my colleague, Jason from Active Essex, who is one of our key strategic partners. Jason.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and quite a poignant story there. Thank you for sharing that with us this morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning to share with you what I very much describe, and hopefully you'll agree by the end of the morning, the exciting journey that we've been on with the Prevention and Enablement Model, or PEM for short. This morning, we're going to bring to life the test and learn approach, as Rebecca just described, that we've been undertaking to better understand how you collectively, with us here this morning, can play your part to hardwire physical activity into the social care system, thus for us improving the lives of people living with disabilities and long-term health conditions. I truly believe, and I hope you'll agree with me by the end of the morning, that what we're sharing with you today is trailblazing in our collaborative approach across different system settings to support people to move more, as you've heard from Rebecca, which is very important. And this is delivered through our unique partnership across the county. Pleased to say, Adult Social Care absolutely front and centre with us, but also our long-term partners, and Lindsay, who I've known for a long time now, Sport for Confidence. I'm very proud that they're with us here today, and you'll be hearing from them later. I'm very grateful for the support from Sport England, who awarded Essex the prestigious opportunity to be one of the 12 local delivery pilots in late 2017, after a very rigorous, competitive national process. This PEM project absolutely embodies everything that the local delivery pilot believes in, by recognising, firstly, transformational change is hard, absolutely hard, but the rewards are absolutely worth it, as we'll see this morning. PEM is on a journey to create robust evidence in its test and learn phase, so we can replicate this across the county at scale, and who knows, hopefully aspirationally nationally as well. Co-production and co-design with participants and professionals are absolutely at the heart of the approach of what we've taken here. And finally, a shared vision and accountability among system leaders is absolutely key. And it's with this last point, I'd like to pause and introduce our next speaker. I mentioned, as you just heard, the importance of a shared vision with system leaders is key. And I welcome the support and the encouragement that we've received from Councillor John Spence, Cabinet Member at Essex County Council for Health and Adult Social Care. We could not have had a more committed and enthusiastic member who truly believes in the approach and the opportunity of PEM presents to the system here in Essex. And so I welcome this morning, Councillor John Spence. Thank you.
Well, Jason, thank you. Gosh, you were very nice to me there, Jason. And Rebecca, thank you. And to Lindsay, thanks to all the people who are going to be speaking this morning, and to every one of you for joining in. Yeah, I'm committed. It's a time for sharing personal stories. I always had visual impairments. I've been registered blind since 1990. I always understood that I never wanted it to stop me from doing anything in life. I always understood also that a fit and healthy person is likely to be a happier person. So the question always seems to me is, how do you get that bit of physical activity that is going to keep you happy, that's going to work? It should never be the penance that you have to go to the gym or to the treadmill or to whatever it is. It's finding what you want. And from my point of view, that means dedicating some of my savings and some of my income to having and heating a swimming pool so that I swim every morning, as well as going on my exercise bike, because I can do them. And I love it because it's my thinking time and it gets me fit for sitting in front of these Zoom as we do now all night. And that's fine for me because I can afford to do it. But what about the people in the more deprived parts of our community who simply don't have the money or the time? So let me look at this from a different aspect. Ultimately, I want every resident of Essex to have the best life they possibly can. That means we have got to attack the scourge of people who are living below the breadline, whether individually or in areas of deprivation. The best way to stop having deprivation is to build the economic prosperity of the county as a whole by maximising the quantity of quality employment. We have to do that by attracting and retaining employers, and that will be better done with a fit and healthy workforce. A fit and healthy workforce is a more productive workforce and therefore a more competitive one. So this isn't just about adult social care for me. This is about a fundamental whole system understanding of the role that meaningful physical activity has in addressing some of the worst inequalities in our society. And of course, as Rebecca pointed out, those inequalities aren't just between rich and poor. They can be between different ethnicities or between able and disabled. On all those dimensions, I'm not just committed to this, Jason. I'm a passionate advocate of everything that is going on. I'm looking to develop across the system as we go forward, as we emerge from COVID, a whole system approach called being fit for the future, fit at individual levels, fit so that each one of us can achieve our life's ambitions or have a better chance of doing it because we're physically and mentally fit. Fit for the future as a county with a workforce and a population who really get it and have found the way in which to have the meaningful physical activity which enriches their time rather than takes away from it. This is nothing new. Essex County Council passed a motion back in 18 or 19, Jason, it was at 2018, promoting physical activity. And you can look at the group of the Cabinet of Essex County Council as a group of tired old men, sadly lacking diversity with only 2 women there and a very little mix in terms of ethnicity. But I can look across all of them and see people who are undertaking physical exercise because they're keeping their bodies and minds in a healthy position. And each has found the form of activity that works for them. One loves the gym, another loves weights, 2 love cycling, 1 goes on long walks. So you get onto it. So I'm not asking to preach a gospel that I don't conduct myself. I'm not indeed asking to preach a gospel at all. Because the wonderful thing that's happened over this period of the LDP pilot and the sports of competence work is we have understood ever more that this can never be Essex County Council talking at its residents. This has got to be rooted in the ownership of individual neighbourhoods and communities, people who think for themselves about the benefits of this and start to reap the rich harvest of the fellowship of friendship to which Rebecca alluded, quite apart from the personal, physical and mental fitness. So over to you, all of you on this today, because we're here to learn from you and to understand that it is through you in each community, in each neighbourhood, that we will learn how to have an Essex that truly is fit for the future, collectively and individually, being happier and healthier together. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was really, really powerful, and I hope really strikes a chord with everyone who is listening today. What we're going to try to do now is just to run through how today's going to run. First of all, we really hope you do use the question and answer function that is part of Zoom. We'll do our very best to answer as many as possible. And if you do feel comfortable in leaving your name and organisation, please do so. What we're going to do through the course of the morning is just to run through each of the key objectives that is part of the prevention and enablement model, or as I said, movement, really what's happened and where we've got to, and all of the brilliant people who've been involved in that is going to share that with you. And as part of that as well, we're also going to tell you and update you on the evaluation. So I now have the privilege in handing over to our next speaker, who for me is somebody I've worked with for a number of years, but absolutely from the moment I met Lindsay, I connected and was inspired by who she is, what she does, and the power she has and commitment to supporting the lives of people. So Lindsay Barrett from Sport for Confidence, you're up.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, everybody. It's absolutely wonderful to be here. And Sport for Confidence are so excited to be a strategic partner in the prevention and enablement model. I am Lindsay. I'm the lead occupational therapist at Sport for Confidence. I'm joined today by some of our PEM team. So we have Megan, Kara, and Sophie, who are all occupational therapists. We also have Shannon with us, one of our coaches. But I'm most excited that we are joined by some of our participants. So we have Daniel, who you're going to hear from, Jill, Donna, and Chris. And all of these people have been part of that model and they're experiencing it and are going to share with you how they get on, what they like, what they don't like. And that's the bit I'm most looking forward to be completely honest. The other thing I want to mention is that you're going to hear a lot about occupational therapy through this next hour, and not everybody has worked with occupational therapists before. So if you haven't, I just wanted to let you know who we are. We are part of a group of allied health professionals. So we're in that same professional group as physiotherapists, paramedics, speech and language therapists. We are dual trained in physical health and mental health. And the thing about OTs, as it's often abbreviated to, is we're really concerned about that transactional relationship between what people do, their occupations, and their health and well-being. And what we've been doing as part of PEM is really showing how occupational therapists can use sport and physical activity as a therapeutic modality, and how physical activity can be used to enable independence, how it can help people to develop new skills, form new relationships, and really make an impact in every part of their life. So I'm going to hand over to Megan now, and she's going to talk about the first objective and how we've been doing this piece of work through the Reconnect workstream. Over to you, Megan.
Hi everybody, my name's Megan, and like Lindsay said, I'm an occupational therapist and I deliver PEM in the South with my colleague Kara. The Reconnect workstream is really about enabling people with barriers to participation to access mainstream leisure facilities and inclusive physical activity. Within this workstream, we also use existing community assets to create opportunities for people to develop their skills, increase social inclusion, and to feel a part of their community. The focus, due to the nature of the world at the moment, has been around routine building, reconditioning, and reducing social isolation. And we've done this online and we've done it face-to-face. Our online sessions include netball, dance, and Be Well Bingo, which involves setting weekly activities for our participants and getting them to share their achievements online the following week so we can see how they're doing. In the North, face-to-face, we've created partnerships with Colchester United, and we've created a vocational skills group, which is to help enhance employment skills using sport as a vehicle to drive this. In the South, a partnership has been created with Street Tag, which has been used as part of our COVID rehab group to enhance socialisation and encourage physical activity outside of the sessions we provide. We also have weekly walking groups in both of the areas, and I'm now going to pass over to Kara, who will elaborate on how we've been using the athletics track at Basildon Sporting Village.
Hi, thank you, Megan. Hi, I'm Kara. I am from Sport for Confidence, and we are so pleased today to have Daniel with us here. Daniel currently attends one of our OT-led walking, cycling, and netball sessions on the track at Basildon Sporting Village. And this outdoor session was put together to support some of our participants who, at the moment, were at risk of social isolation or occupational disruption from COVID, and then the resulting lockdowns. So the session content in terms of the activities that we offered during this 1 hour weekly session have really grown to support what the participants would like to be doing and what their interests were. So Daniel's lived experience of participating in this Reconnect Path work stream prior to COVID and during the lockdown in both a group and individual capacity really speaks to the importance of providing individuals with preventative, person-centered, and meaningful intervention. And with this, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. So, as Cara said, I'm Daniel Wilson. I'm 36 years old, and I've got a spinal injury. So I sustained that from a fall down the escalator in 2015. So I've been injured for 5 years. I'm completely paralysed from the waist down. I've always enjoyed sport previously to my injury, and even more so now. What sport is to me is everything. It's my rehabilitation. It's part of my physiotherapy. It does wonders for my mental health. Just being out on the track or doing the swimming, getting as active as I can makes me feel more physical, more stronger, more confident in myself and in the chair. And going to the sessions, which are local, it's literally just down the road from me. It's a good place to sort of see and make new friends. Now, I've been a lot more sociable since I've been going down to the Sports for Confidence sessions. So that's been a really, really big benefit. I was first introduced to Sport for Confidence by a friend. It was word of mouth. He lives locally. And he said, there's Sports for Confidence down at the local gym. So I thought, well, that's absolutely perfect. I have to see what's going on. And my first introduction was then playing boccia. So I sat around and we played the boccia. And then I looked at what other physical activities they were, because I wanted something a bit more physical. So I was encouraged into swimming, and I wasn't a very good or confident swimmer before my injury, let alone being paralysed from the waist down. So that was slightly daunting, but I was encouraged to give it a go, and I did. And I was swimming sort of every Monday, and it worked. It really worked. I could swim better in a safer environment. I felt a lot more comfortable in myself, knowing that there was the physios, the OTs, the lifeguards, in a smaller group as well. So I felt a lot safer. And it's actually grown to be one of my favourite sports down at Sports for Confidence. So that's something I really, really enjoyed. I wanted to be a bit more physical as well. So I do the swimming, and I love sand cycling. So it was mentioned that I could have usage of the track, which could be a session that's tagged on the end of my swimming sessions. So when I come down, I can swim, get changed, and then hit the cycling track, which is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Using the track after a swimming session is absolutely brilliant. It makes me feel good and strong, and I get the best workout that I can. And that was actually sort of felt like it was tailored for me. Sports for Confidence spoke with each other, and then sort of approached me and said, you know, bring your bike and we can have usage. And then going into lockdown, that was the only physical activity for me that was available. I do cycle on the roads, but coming into winter, it was cold, it was dark, it's just dangerous. But having the floodlit track where I could still cycle through the winter, through lockdown, was paramount. It felt so special to be given the opportunity. So my deconditioning wasn't affected. I could come into the spring, the summer, or when the centre opens up again, literally hitting the ground running. And that's what I really, really love. And it's really helped.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Daniel. And so when we do go back into the leisure centre as well, what would be some of the things that you'd be able to, what are some of the goals that you'll be working on?
I have goals. I have many goals. So for the centre itself, if I can sort of get usage of the gym, and I want to try and do the weights to sort of build up a bit more strength. So that's something that I want to work towards, is a better body shape, because I've obviously lost muscle and tissue in the legs. I want to see if I can sort of tone the top part of my body to compensate, to make transfers easier and living generally. But main one is hand cycling. I want to be able to hand cycle 20 miles in one session. So I want to do 20 miles in about an hour and 45 minutes up to 2 hours. And that's something that I want by summer, by August. That's what I've set myself.
Great. Well, we'll be there for you, absolutely, for sure. Daniel, thank you so much for sharing with us today. That's all the time that we have at the minute. But again, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story with us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And I'll hand that back over to Megan.
Thanks, Kara. So in terms of the evaluation and finding out how well it's all working, we've been completing surveys and we've been collecting case studies and quotes from participants and professionals that have been involved in the service. So for the survey, so far the surveys have found that by accessing PEM, the overall well-being and activity levels of a disabled person can equate to the same scores as a non-disabled person, which I think is a powerful finding that we've found so far. PEM also has the potential to be a socially positive investment. So for every £1 we invest, £3 in benefit is derived back to health and well-being. So for example, reducing hospital admissions, GP appointments and social care packages. And then at the bottom, we have a nice little quote. It's from one of our healthcare professionals in ePut surrounding the men's group that was run in the North. So just take some time to have a little look at that.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Cara, Lindsay, and a massive thank you to Daniel. I just want to really, if you don't mind me, Daniel, just picking up on a couple of things you said. Sport is everything to me. Getting as active as you can helps you feel stronger, and you've been a lot more social. And I think that just really the broad spectrum of the benefits of physical activity, but what we're trying to do with PEM. So thank you for sharing that with us. John touched on the importance of that local community-led approach, and I think that we all advocate for that, really driving what and how we can support and develop communities to build on the assets they have to be inclusive and reach as many people as possible who are living within their society. And so that's why the collaboration with our local district and borough councils and local partners is absolutely vital to what we're trying to do within PEM. And I really do have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, who is Grant Taylor from Basildon Council. Grant.
Hey, thanks, Rebecca. So yeah, I'm Grant Taylor. I'm the Head of Culture and Health at Basildon Council, and I'm extremely honoured to be invited to come and speak in such fantastic company today. So my role, as Rebecca said, in PEM really is from Basildon is one of the 3 priority areas for the pilot of the local delivery pilot, Basildon, Tendring and Colchester. But of course, it's very, very clear that our role is to be able to help and share learning with the rest of Essex and hopefully further afield to do some really fantastic work. And PEM clearly is one such example of that. So I'm here really to talk and to build very much on some of the conversations that's been happening. And I must say, I hadn't scripted this. I hadn't scripted anything, actually. I'm talking from the heart. But it's wonderful to hear from Daniel there, because I think that actually really brings to life some of the decisions and some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about now, about our role at the back end. And that's a great example and draws back to why we did it. So to set some context, really, Basildon as an area has been working. We're very proud of Sport for Confidence because they started to blossom with us in Basildon, and we've got a really exciting model that I always like to talk about, in the fact that they've been there from the beginning of our sporting village opening in 2011. It's a public sector owned building by Basildon Council, run by the private sector in sports and leisure management, everyone active, and but is brought very much to life by our community volunteer sector partner in Sport for Confidence as well. So it's a really great example of all sectors working together and how we can make a difference. And I think that's something that we're very, very proud of. So wonderful for so much work that's happening in care with Kara and Megan and Lindsay over many years. So we've been incredibly impressed by the work that's been going on for Sport for Confidence for some time, and the PEM programme certainly was going from strength to strength to strength. And of course, over the last year, we've been in and out of lockdown and in and out of lockdown, and been very, very grateful to get this new athletics track up and running. It became apparent towards the, I guess, autumn of last year, when the government guidance came out, which said, in essence, leisure centres must close, but that community centres and libraries and the like can stay open for support groups for people. Now, this put us in a bit of an awkward situation, because as the leisure operator, it was very clear that the centre needed to close, and the athletics track was very much part of the perimeter of that, and that was a legal responsibility on us. But that clearly the guidance was set there with the intention and the hope that groups such as Sport for Confidence and the PEM project, therefore, was going to be able to carry on operating. So this put us in a very awkward situation. It put our providers in a very awkward situation. What we didn't want to do was get a £10,000 COVID fine, which the taxpayer was going to have to fund, because we were simply trying to support some of our residents and this wonderful project. Where I think this becomes really interesting is just, and one of the things I really wanted to share today was just the level of interest that this then started to generate in the most senior leaders in the council and the senior leaders in everyone active, and how actually we managed to kind of pull together these parties to actually say, right, is this the outcome that we want? Is this what we're prepared to accept? And we therefore started to have some very, very senior and serious conversations across the system, therefore, about actually what is the impact we want to have here. Now, this is a really different thing for us as the local authority whose role it is to enforce the government regulations, to be able to kind of manoeuvre away from that. This was the first time I think we really started to have some serious conversations. And I'm really pleased to say that through that, the council, along with SLM, decided that the work that PEM was doing and the work that Sport for Confidence were doing and had done for a long time, and its importance certainly in this period of the health pandemic, was that we were going to take that risk. We were collectively going to take that risk, and we were going to be able to use our links into MHCLG and make that point clear that Sport for Confidence has been rightly, and the PEM project therefore been rightly showcased as a hugely positive and innovative approach to physical activity for some of our most vulnerable communities. And therefore, we cannot find ourselves in a situation, because they're so innovative, that the guidance is impinging their ability to act. So one of the other things we did, therefore, was manage to raise that with the MHCLG. And I think, therefore, that's just a really important case study that we wanted to share about the role that we thought that we needed to take from a system point of view. And I think very much at the start of this, my role was about how we work with some of those kind of micro grassroots level communities about getting involved in PEM. But it's a really good example about how it risen right up to prepared to take the risk to be able to support this really important work carrying on. I'm pleased to say now I'm able to pass the baton over to Sophie, who is going to provide another excellent example of how the system works together to make a difference for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. I'm Sophie. I'm also one of the occupational therapists from Sport for Confidence. And I just want to introduce you to a gentleman called Connell, who is one of our participants who joined us through the Reconnect partnership. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today, but he has done a little video for you all to talk about his experience. So just to give you a little bit of background, I first met Connell last summer when he was signposted to me through his social worker. At the time, Connell was having quite a difficult time with his mental health. He has a diagnosis of autism and had just left a really supportive college and was really struggling to see a clear career pathway for himself. His social worker knew that he was really into sport and that employment was really important for him. So she reached out to myself, as she knew about Sport for Confidence, and also to an employability officer, so that we could try and work collaboratively to support Connell to improve his mental health firstly, and to then think about how we can support him in having a clearer pathway for his future. So straight away it was that community partnership working, which was really important, and I got to know Connell a little bit and to find out what sort of goals he had, and invited them all to come down to the leisure centre so I could show them a little bit more about what Sport for Confidence is and to think about opportunities that he could engage in. Connell got involved really quickly. He'll tell you about that in a sec. But I just wanted to let you know that since then, he has now started working in 2-page jobs, which he's finding really meaningful. And we've seen improvements in his mental health. And we're really proud of how far he's come. So we'll play the video now, and I'll speak to you all soon.
Hi everyone, I'm Connell Scholar and I'm a coach at Sport for Confidence. So I'm simply just going to be touching upon my experience really and what it's been like. So what my life was like before joining the Sport for Confidence organisation. It was a time where I was in a mental health crisis. I didn't feel great about myself, and I just felt I had no hope in pretty much anything really. So it was one of them things that that did affect me before I did join Sport for Confidence. The person who told me about Sport for Confidence was my social worker at the time. I did have a vague understanding of what Sport for Confidence was before that, but I didn't really know what sort of sports they did. So so yeah, that was pretty much that really. My first experience of Sport for Confidence, I just instantly knew that it was a very welcoming environment full of absolutely wonderful people. So yeah, that was absolutely great, and I went with my social worker as well. So basically just had a general chat really, which was nice. So what happened next in regards, so I had a little bit of a tour of the leisure centre really. So I sort of got to watch the session for a little while, just to see what they did really, which was absolutely wonderful. And then I actually got to go in and help out in a session straight away, which was a bit unexpected, but it was something that I really enjoyed. And the experience for me has been great, it's been wonderful. My highlights during my time at Sport for Confidence has been coaching in the leisure centres, especially leading like watcher sessions and football sessions are probably some of my highlights, but also the interaction that I've had with the clients as well, the rapport that I've built with them. I think that's one of my standout highlights for me. In terms of whether I have any future plans in regards to Sport for Confidence, I do, and I hope in the long-term future that this is something that I'm doing permanently, because this is something that I love doing. I love making a difference to people and helping them, and yeah, overall I'm just happy really, and I am proud of what I've achieved so far. I think it's done absolutely leaps and bounds for my confidence and my coaching skills, my communication skills, and other areas that I needed to improve upon. So yeah, overall it's just been an absolutely fantastic experience, and I can't thank everyone enough for being so welcoming towards me. I really appreciate you all for that. So yeah, I just want to say how grateful I am, and I'm just proud of what I've done and the progress I've made through this organisation. So yeah, that's all I've got to say really. Thank you all for listening. First of all, I've been Connell Scholar. Goodbye.
Okay, I think it's back to me to talk about the system to evaluation findings there. I mean, what a brilliant video there from Connell. Really, really fantastic to hear the progress he's making and what his plans for the future, most importantly. And you know, and I think I know the team over in Sport for Confidence will do everything they can to support him on his journey moving forward. So I think this objective shows the importance of having a very much a broader range of system relationships. And I think this is just a great examples we're seeing time and time again of what happens when different parties and different partners from across different sectors work together to take a whole system change. So I think that's one of the real key learnings for the system objective. It's also really important that this objective is set out that tackling physical activity is very much about bringing all of those system partners together, and therefore it's not at the behest of one system setting at all. And only by working together can we make that change, whether that is, as I mentioned in my part previously, about working with those kind of grassroots level organisations, the doers, the people that actually make things happen in our community, which very much is a huge impactor in Basildon and across Essex and further afield, I know. And certainly was where I expected to spend most of my time working on PEM. But being able to get that system leadership involved in this too shows the importance of the approach that we're taking. And I think more of that will need to continue. What I think has been able to enable that to happen best and enable that to have that to continue is having that shared vision. And I think where we saw in my example system leaders come together is because we've been able to successfully showcase and agree what that shared vision was. It was very much our vision when we worked with partners, certainly a county, with regards to building the village in the first place. But a building is very much just the canvas at which great things can happen. And I think through having that shared vision, right from the beginning, where Sport for Confidence Day being a key component of the building from the time it opened, has been enabling us to kind of ensure that our system leaders at a local level knew their role and knew where they had to take risks and make the case and advocate up was particularly important. So you'll see on this slide here that some real specific quotes in relation to that and how this has been captured. So showing that senior leaders have taken that under constant high pressure, are prioritising and supporting those most vulnerable. And that a lot of our aims and objectives, they're not things that a single organisation could deliver. So I think that shows that. I'm really pleased now to hand back over to Rebecca, and thank you for inviting me along today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grant. Thank you, Sophie. And obviously a big thank you to Connell. I just want to pick up really quickly, and we are short of time, but on something that I noticed from Connell. And it was the spark in his eye when he talked about that after visiting the leisure centre, he was asked to help out. I think that you can just see what that meant to him. And how he felt it was unexpected, but from a confidence point of view, how he still absolutely holds on to that. So brilliant. And then equally on something Grant said is we're only going to achieve this when we work together. So I think there are really golden threads we should keep hold of. So we're going to move on to our next speaker, which is again a privilege to introduce. So Ben Page was one of the leads in my team and has been the lead in really driving and working with all of our strategic partners to shape and deliver PEM. So Ben, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. So I am speaking today around Objective 3, but I'm also speaking on behalf of Louise Catlin, who is a specialty public health registrar. So she can't be with us today. She's on a professional study leave, but yeah, she has contributed significantly to this as well. So as we're all aware, strength, balance, physical inactivity and deconditioning are all key topics at the moment as lockdown is gradually eased. It's predicted that we're likely to experience a deconditioning pandemic due to the conditions that we've all experienced and the sedentary behaviours that have been adopted by many. So therefore, it's absolutely a pivotal time and opportunity to embed physical activity as part of a targeted pathway in the strength and balance service. So Objective 3 has really seen us how we explore and redesign the strength and balance service in the north and south of our county, how we prioritise a primary prevention offer, and how we really build an integrated community pathway or step on into the community after an individual exits the service. This really promotes and increases the chances of lifelong involvement in physical activity. So when I refer to primary prevention, or primary prevention offer. What I mean by this is it really aims to prevent an individual, be it from falling or deconditioning before it happens, and particularly how we intervene and identify physical inactivity at the earliest point, whether that be through social care, self-identification or a GP. So when I refer to a community integrated pathway, and Lindsay will give you a lot more practical detail on this in a little while, it is how we ensure a supported step-on is in place for individuals who are coming to an end of the strength and balance service into a community-based activity that will still maintain good levels of strength and balance. So as I've mentioned, the work that we have done and are still doing to date has used our strength and balance services as a foundation for this. But we absolutely do recognise it fits into a much wider frailty agenda than just strength or balance or falls. To approach this embedment, we've utilised and worked in a collaborative alliance approach, which has been really successful. We've had a multitude of stakeholders from different professions and backgrounds, and they've all been able to bring something different to the table to help us build a real evidence-based sort of set of prevention principles, which we will test as part of the strength and balance service. So it has been a new dynamic for us, but one that has really proved to be very fruitful. So a key focus of this work stream is really to understand how we permanently embed physical activity as part of client, patient, and resident pathways, and the other being, and equally as important, focus has been on a primary prevention and early identification as to when someone may benefit from a strength and balance-based activity. So to achieve both of these focuses, we have worked with our local active networks, social care colleagues, and also our service providers to begin to explore how we offer a menu of strength and balance supporting activity in the local community that is easily accessible to all. So as I'm sure you're all aware for your own localities, there is an absolute wealth of community assets that supports a primary prevention offer, whether that be ball games, aerobics or resistance training. Not only can these assets be used as part of this primary prevention offer, but also as part of the community integrated pathway. So I'd now like to hand you over to Lindsay Barrett, who will guide you through the integrated pathway in practice and one that we will be testing in the future. Over to you, Lindsay.
Brilliant, thanks Ben. I thought it'd be good to give some practical examples about what we mean when we're talking about a community integrated pathway. And there is a hugely diverse and skilled workforce that sit outside of traditional services and that are readily available to support us and to support people as they transition into regular physical activity, which is going to support them strength and balance and contribute to the Falls agenda and so much more. One of the things that we found is that when we've tapped into those relationships with community partners, they're keen to be involved. We don't want to create service land for people and dependency. We want to empower people and give them choice in what activities are available, and developing relationships and partnerships and being innovative in community pathways will only make that a better experience for the people that we are working with and trying to reach. So to give a very practical example of that, I thought it'd be good to talk about something called Love to Move. And so we have worked, obviously in Basildon, we're very fortunate. We've got South Essex Gymnastics Club with Scott Han and Max Whitlock, an amazing community asset who are incredibly passionate about working with community partners. We'd been speaking to them, we'd met with the British Gymnastics Foundation and heard about a programme called Love to Move. Now, Love to Move is seated gymnastics. It's very much based around functional movement and has been used with people living with dementia. It's evidence-based, and it shows that certain movement patterns and physical activity is having direct impact on function. For example, in one of the care homes, one of the reports they were showing is that by doing Love to Move before a mealtime, they were seeing people developing independence in using cutlery. So it's that direct link, as I said before, around that OT lens of physical activity and independence. So we've been on the Love to Move training. We've started to embrace that and to look at rolling out Love to Move as part of the community pathway. And we thought we'd experience it today. So I have Shannon with us, our coach, who's going to deliver some Love to Move. But what is amazing is we've also got Jill with us, who attends that session. Jill, would it be possible just to introduce yourself briefly to everybody and tell us a little bit about yourself before Shannon puts us through our paces. Oh, crumbs, have we lost Jill?
She's just on mute.
She's just on mute. Okay.
That's better.
There
Can
we
you hear
go.
me? Yeah,
Hey,
right.
Jill. Yeah,
Hello,
wonderful.
thank you for letting me speak. I'm Jill, and I'm a carer for my partner Gerald, who's got Parkinson's and other health issues. So I find it enormously difficult to get out. I either have to take him with me, which is not always practical, or get him a sitter, which is also not even practical sometimes. So I've been attending the Zoom sessions for the past 6 months. This enables the outside world to come into my living room, which has given me immense help to bring structure to my day while keeping my brain and body active. The OTs and coaches are fantastic. I like the way they encourage every one of us, whatever our abilities, to come together as part of a team, which makes me feel part of an extended family, even though a lot of us have never even met, which I hope we'd like to be able to meet sometime in the future. Thank you. That's my story.
Oh, thank you so much, Jill, and thank you for being here. And,
okay.
And Shannon, I'm going to hand over to you now to give us a little bit of the Love to Move experience. Is that all right?
Absolutely. So a little bit of activity for us all. The only question that I have is that the request that I have is that we let all inhibitions go and get stuck in on a Friday. Imagine what life would have been like pre-COVID on a Friday. We'd be dreaming of being in the pub, dreaming of last orders, feeling a little bit leery, a little bit rowdy. And that's the atmosphere that I want for us all today, if possible. So even if you're on mute, it doesn't matter. Please join me and Jill in shouting the word "oi" as loud as you possibly can. That's what would make me very happy today. So shouting the word "oi" at us will encourage us to have a little go at the Lambeth Walk. So if you're ready, all you need is yourself and a chair, and let's get started. All right, team. Taking a march, Rory, let's go. Take a march. You got it. Go for a march. Now we're in that pub. We're shouting the word "oi." We go doing the Lambeth Walk. Oi! Yes, you got it. We're off now. Got the first one out of the way. One more. Can we go louder? Here we go. Doing the Lambeth Walk. Oi! Roll your hands towards me. You got it. Now think about where you're going to go on holiday as soon as all this COVID is over. Let's make our way there. We go there. Stay there. Yes. Roll towards your body for me. All right, back to our oys. Are we ready, team? Hands to the legs. Let's go. Doing the Lambeth Walk. Oi! Down, one clap. Side to side. You got it. Hands to our legs. Let me hear you. Doing the Lambeth Walk. Oi! One high, one low, one high. We got it. Now this is your last oi. Let's make it count. Make it the loudest yet. Let's go, team. Doing the Lambeth Walk. Oi! Yes. Well done, team. Good effort. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm not sure I quite got that, but it was great. Really just touching on evaluation very, very quickly for this. As you're all aware, a lot of services this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic haven't been able to run. So we haven't been able to test any of the principles that we are trying to embed at the moment. But that is absolutely the intentions moving forward. So once services do become online again, we'll be working with providers and our other partners as well to test the principles such as using the digital primary prevention offer and that community integrated pathway to determine if they are effective. But I mean, given the pressures that not only on the health system but the voluntary sector too, the contribution to this work and the progress that's been made has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm really excited and intrigued to learn the outcomes of this evaluation from this and share it with you all in time. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Jill. First of all, it's always great to have a little dance, so that's definitely cheered my day. But again, I just want to pick up on a really key point that I think was so powerful from what Jill said. So actually the Zoom sessions was allowed the outside world to come into Jill's living room. And I think that is just massive, and it really does show you the power of digital actually, and for us thinking differently in how we connect with people. And on that note, and we've talked a lot about the role of occupational therapy in terms of sport for confidence, but Health and Care have a massive occupational therapy resource, particularly from an adult social care point of view. And I'm really privileged to be able to introduce Alex Lader, who's our principal OT. Alex.
Hi everybody, sorry, a bit of disruption there. I've got tree surgeons starting up outside, so I was just trying to minimise the noise. What a session to follow on from. I haven't got any wonderful exercises or activities for you today, so you can stay seated. The story of this work stream is unlike the others. When I came into the role of Principal OT in November 19, it was a new post, and there hasn't been a principal occupational therapy or lead occupational therapist role in the County Council before. Rebecca and I have done previous work sort of innovating around different spaces before, so she's someone I trust and have confidence in, and she introduced me to Lindsay and the Sports for Confidence team at a point where I was just beginning to review the occupational therapy workforce in adult social care. So what a timely meeting. Sometimes things I think just happen for a reason. So the timing is interesting because on discovering and looking at and reflecting on occupational therapy in Essex County Council, it hasn't been a bed of roses for myself and the occupational therapy practitioners to sort of take the lid off, look in the mirror and see how are we practicing, are we getting the best out of occupational therapy in Essex. The relationship with Sports for Confidence has been a catalyst really for some of the crucial conversations and reflections we've had along this journey. When I went to Basildon Leisure Centre to meet Lindsay, I was quite blown away really by the pure occupational therapy approach, very pure and simple, but the incredible impact it was having on people's lives. And having come from a background managing therapy, intermediate care, rehabilitation services, fall services, even things like sort of hydrotherapy, pools and things like that, I just loved the fact that it was just people in a wonderful, vibrant leisure centre, having a good time, being active, being social, and looking after their health and well-being in a way that I don't think any other sort of services that I've ever seen had been able to do for people. So I very much was willing to look at what is it that Sports for Confidence occupational therapists are doing, how is that achieving change and bringing back physical activity and health and well-being in people's lives, and what does that example mean for us in adult social care? I think in many ways it's a very sensitive piece of work because occupational therapists in adult social care have undergone lots of changes. We've had them reorganised in different ways. We've had periods where they weren't allowed to be occupational therapists, where they were sort of unable to use that title, for instance. And they're very much integrated and assimilated really into multidisciplinary teams alongside social workers. And clearly we are all very fond and supportive and committed to a multidisciplinary approach. We all want occupational therapists working alongside others to bring their perspective. But what we've had to do really over the last year is reconnect with occupational therapy and what occupation and activity mean in occupational therapy. So through this piece of work, we held some workshops. Sports for Confidence gave us the evidence, the example, the impact of what they had been doing with people. And, you know, those powerful images, powerful examples really got into our thinking about who we are, what our identity is, what it means to be an occupational therapist in social care. It is actually potentially quite an overwhelming situation for occupational therapists in social care, though, because they work in a different setting, they work in a different organisation, different constraints, different realities and pressures day to day. You know, they work side by side with social workers delivering the Care Act. And whilst that could have been written by an occupational therapist in terms of the prevention enablement agenda, sometimes the realities of functions and roles and responsibilities daily around sort of assessment, care management, safeguarding can somehow reduce the opportunities occupational therapists feel they have to assess people as occupational therapists, to identify opportunities for people as occupational therapists, and to promote health and well-being. So we had workshops with Sports for Confidence, but we then needed to take it away and have an internal reflection. We've got some fantastic occupational therapy practice leads in Essex who designed and delivered very interactive workshops with local teams to allow them really to be honest and to say what it meant to them and what they thought it meant could be, how it could be incorporated within their practice. But really, let's face what some of the challenges actually are. So it's been a sort of there's so much positivity in all of this, but it's also getting to grips with the reality of what's happening on the ground. Occupational therapists have been reconnecting with their professional identity. We've been talking about how do we make it count that we're occupational therapists, and right from the point of the first information we gather about an individual, the first time we lay eyes on them and their environment, you know, that we're looking holistically at the adult. You know, this is the basics of occupational therapy. It's not groundbreaking, but reminding ourselves we've got to bring our occupational therapy game and perspective into the work in social care. That's what we're here for. And what that means and what quality occupational therapy means in social care. So we do want to understand who the adult is as a unique individual, what their interests are, what their aspirations are, what their strengths are, what their potential is. And actually, rather than see inactivity as a natural consequence of illness and disability and something where our natural response is to provide care and support or even equipment and adaptations, that we actually seek to understand what the barriers are, but what the opportunities and what the key is really to that person achieving better health, well-being, physical activity in their lives, and not just sort of adapting around that. So through those conversations, we've, you know, shared again what we think occupational therapy is, what it looks like in social care, just with one another and with our increasingly now with our colleagues, what that actually means for them. We've discussed our own examples where we can and we already do promote physical activity, but our occupational therapists are aligned to multidisciplinary teams around adults who are eligible for care and support. So drawing out those examples with adults with you know, high support needs is something that, you know, has taken us time to really unpick. How can we influence? How can we give opportunity to people? And there's been some brilliant examples, some of them where we've identified we've fallen short and we've actually said, actually, we missed an opportunity there and we can reimagine how it would look in the future. Things like an example springs to mind of an occupational therapist auditing a case file where she was looking at the quality of practice in a direct payment review. And the woman who was the direct payment user was somebody who had a very painful joint condition. And her words were, swimming is like medicine for me. And for her, that was the key. It made everything better. She felt good about herself. Her joints were less painful. She felt more mobile. She actually swam with her friends. If she could use direct payments to swim, that was the key to her health and well-being. Now, in the lockdown, she hadn't been able to do that. And what was missed was we sort of ticked the box that she could continue to receive direct payments, but we failed to actually address the fact that her health and well-being was at risk because she was no longer swimming. And what changes to her routine, to her activity could we make so that she could sustain health and well-being until she was able to resume her swimming? It's the simple things like that. And so really our approach has been thinking about how we can make every conversation count. You know, there are examples where we do get referrals where it is about someone's asked us to assess an adult for a riser recliner chair, for example. And, you know, you could imagine that some therapists might go out in those circumstances and assess for the chair. A good occupational therapist won't do that. They won't move into an assessment on prescription. They'll actually look at the adult holistically and take a view. And in subtle ways, get the adult up and moving and talking about their routine and what gets them out of bed, what's happened since their wife died, reflect with them that they've just walked up and down the stairs, and why are they spending 12 hours a day sitting down, and actually start to take that conversation somewhere else and leave the home with the adult thinking about doing things differently and not needing the chair at all. So I suppose what I'm saying is we've taken the evidence around physical activity and occupational therapy from Sports for Confidence, but we are having a conversation about what it means for us. It's part of a wider piece of work, as I've already said, not just about what it means in practice, but how have we commissioned our occupational therapy workforce? As I've said, we've aligned all of our occupational therapists into multidisciplinary teams, almost exclusively around adults who are eligible for care and support. So we're now having a conversation about actually there is a prevention enablement opportunity for occupational therapists to be working pre-social care before adults are eligible. A lot of that is around working jointly with our health colleagues. And yes, it is about promoting health and well-being and activity and routine and connecting what interests people and how they can self-manage. And then it also can progress and be planned towards if people are going to need care and support. We've had conversations with senior managers about occupational therapy and how we can support it. There's some very fundamental things. There's aspirational things about how we could be much more powerful and effective in the space around well-being and community support. But there's also specific examples of where we could really come into our own. Lindsay and I have been talking about how we support the newly developing COVID rehabilitation pathways as one example, where the NHS have been devising 12-week rehabilitation programs, but from sitting into the long COVID clinics with Megan from Sports for Confidence and reflecting with Lindsay, we can see people's lives are very far from back together again and on track at the end of a 12-week rehabilitation process. So thinking about occupational therapy in terms of prevention enablement, there's certainly a case for people to have further support, a joint approach with primary care psychology, thinking about small goals so that people continue their recovery and don't face unnecessary setbacks by trying to do too much, thinking about the vocational and employment aspects of that. Further, we're focusing on adults who don't receive a reablement service, but nonetheless use other domiciliary care services in lieu of reablement, and how through focusing occupational therapy and joint working with care providers and working in a different way, we would be able to sort of support adults increasing activity and again, regaining function. Thinking about the role of occupational therapists again in, you know, making other services more accessible and, you know, sort of raising the quality of the support that is provided to them. There is a long journey for us to make in occupational therapy to sort of strengthen our role and strengthen our contribution. what we've really had to do is make sure this isn't seen as an additional layer on top of what we're already asking OTs to do. The stretch on OTs day to day when they're working in multidisciplinary teams and they're identifying occupational therapy needs for adults, but they're also undertaking safeguarding and care management tasks. That's already quite a big stretch. And the Sports for Confidence example is compelling. It's put fire back into people's bellies, but nonetheless, it's about us thinking about what do we need to do to make sure that this isn't going to overwhelm us, that we actually think about how we can incorporate into practice in a manageable way, but also we can build the case for occupational therapists moving into more of those well-being and prevention spaces where, bespoking occupational therapy support for people, building their connections into ordinary community spaces and resources is what we do really well. So this isn't a story of having provided an occupational therapy intervention to a group of adults and measuring a different impact at this point. It's about thinking systemically about occupational therapy in social care. It's about the practice. It's about the career pathway and progression. It's about our practice guidance and our training. It's about our relationship with social work. We've thought a lot about what social workers need to work more effectively with us as well, and how we can devise some bespoke learning and training opportunities for them to help them think about how they support physical activity in people's lives. All in all, this is sort of galvanizing discussions around occupational therapy and making the case that we need to do a systemic piece of work in adult social care to reinforce the practice, to develop the pathways for occupational therapy, to revisit our systems and processes that could enable us to be more preventative and enabling, and also just to perhaps look at the balance of where our occupational therapists are organised and how they fit into the sort of wider prevention enablement space. I would say that I think we're getting the balance right. I think that occupational therapists, there is still a degree of frustration about what they could be doing and what might be constraining that. But actually, they are now increasingly feeling like a network of occupational therapists that goes beyond just social care, the network with Sports for Confidence, with their health colleagues, and just thinking of themselves as occupational therapists again, and taking pride in their role, and sort of helping others to understand what they can bring. I sort of covered a lot of ground there, but I hope you can see that this is a slightly different approach to the other work streams, but it's very much gathering the insight, the learning, the evidence about physical activity and thinking about how it informs practice systems and ways of working.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex, and absolutely fundamental to the shift across health and care in improving the health of the population. So we're going to move on to our final objective, and I'm conscious of time, but it's a really important one because we did talk about the vulnerability of our communities, and this objective is really focusing on those people who are the most vulnerable, and that's those living in care homes. So I'd like to introduce you to Caroline Robinson, Leslie Cruikshank and Sophie from Sport for Confidence, who will talk you through the next objective.
Thank you, Rebecca. So myself, Caroline Robinson, who is our Provider Quality Team's OT, and our Prosper team, have been working with Sports for Confidence and Active Essex on the PEM project with care homes. And the main aim has been to upskill care workers so that they can support residents with physical activity. This has benefits to the residents' overall health and well-being, but also their functional ability. The project is working with 6 homes split across Colchester, Tendring and Basildon Brentwood areas, and Sports for Confidence are running sessions with care staff on how they can introduce physical activity into their everyday routine. These were intended to be face-to-face sessions, but due to COVID, they've had to be adapted to virtual, and we are hoping to be able to go back to on-site sessions in the coming months. These sessions will then be built upon with strength and balance activities run by Active Essex and bite-sized training sessions on meaningful activity and well-being by Caroline Robinson. COVID has greatly impacted the availability of the care staff, and Sports for Confidence have been very flexible in their approach. They have provided telephone support to the care homes and come up with other ways to introduce physical activity besides the original sessions. Sophie will tell you more about that in a moment. The project aims to create physical activity ambassadors in the homes, and through our Prosper project, we'll be able to run ambassador days and community of practice events with the support of Sport for Confidence and also Caroline. The PEM project has evolved and it's instigated other activities. So as a result, we have commissioned Move It or Lose It to run their FABS training for activity coordinators in care homes. And we've just had 2 cohorts of those complete that training. And Caroline has also been running COVID recovery sessions for the care homes, which have been really well attended. So I'm now going to hand over to Caroline, who will tell you a little bit more about what we mean by physical activity in the care homes.
So hi everyone, I'm Caroline Robinson. I'm one of the senior occupational therapists in Essex County Council. And as Leslie mentioned, I'm working within the provider quality team. So our team is around support for care providers, both domiciliary as well as care home, to look at improving the quality of the care provided for the residents of Essex that they support. So I'm going to talk a little bit around the professional reasoning behind the PEM programme for care homes. So the end game, as we see it, is that for all care homes to incorporate physical activity into their daily routines. This could be as little as supporting somebody to walk a lap around their bedroom before they go to bed at night, or mobilising somebody around the dining room, helping lay tables for dinner, or right up to maybe engaging a group of residents within a 30-minute exercise routine. By implementing a keep active culture, we believe that residents as well as staff will reap several benefits, including improving well-being, seeing a reduction or prevention of falls, maintaining or even improving function. As occupational therapists, we know to capture people's interest, to gain their motivation to partake in activity, the type of activity is really, really crucial. So you're less likely to motivate somebody to keep active if the activity is not meaningful or accessible to them. Meaningful activity essentially means those hobbies, those daily living tasks, or those interests that that individual enjoys the most. So these activities may need adapting to remove the barriers or of accessing them for those individuals being supported. For example, seating a person to complete a sing and stretch routine like we've all just done with Lambeth Walk, if the person has limited standing tolerance. So by tailoring those meaningful activities within the homes for the individuals you have within the care homes, you're more likely to gain participation and embed that keep active culture change. So hopefully that gives you a little bit around the sort of professional reasoning side of things within the care home work stream. I'm now going to hand over to Sophie to talk about the progress we've made so far with the PEM project in the care homes.
Thanks, Caroline. Yes, so this is one of my favourite work streams because I used to be a carer myself in care homes, quite a few in Colchester actually. So as an OT, part of our role is to ensure that we're helping care staff to provide opportunities for more physical activity within the home. So it's really about building their capabilities and their confidence to actually deliver physical activity. There's lots of evidence to show that for the residents to be active, we really need to start with the staff because it's them that are going to help to motivate the participants or the residents every day. So the workshops that we've been delivering have been in partnership with us OTs and also our coaches. So we've actually been demonstrating physical activity sessions like you saw earlier with the Love to Move taster, so that the care staff can actually see what sort of activities we do and how they can use them as interventions within the home to do things like reducing the falls. So the aims of the workshop are to help the care staff to understand how they can use physical activity holistically, to gain confidence in using it as an intervention, so improving health, well-being and independence within the home. So like we were talking about earlier, things like enabling the residents to get dressed themselves, to walk down to the dinner hall, to independently use their cutlery, and also encouraging that meaningful occupation that we've been talking about throughout. So since the workshops, we've been encouraging the staff to almost write a pledge. I don't really like that word, but it's the only one that comes to my mind, but it's like writing a goal as to how they can actually implement what we've taught them into their daily roles as carers. And like Leslie said, we've been identifying ambassadors within the homes and mentoring them to ensure that what we're sort of educating them on is actually sustained and actually is implemented within the homes. Again, this is thinking about the activities of daily living for the residents. So it's not just about the physical activity, it's about the wider occupational outcomes and improving morale within the care homes too. Like we said, we've had to be really flexible in how we support the care staff at the moment. As you can imagine, there's been lots of heartbreaking incidences within the care homes and lots of COVID outbreaks. So we've been providing one-to-one phone call support with the staff who have been dealing with high levels of anxiety and disruption because of the effects of COVID. We've also been doing some doorstop visits to the care homes. And we've been providing all the care homes in the PEM locations and their own physical activity kits, which you can see in the picture. So every care home has now got a boccia kit, a boccia guide, which shows how they can use it as an intervention, and some resources from us OTs as well. Some of the residents said it felt like Christmas when we dropped them off, and they're really looking forward to us to be able to go in and show them how to play boccia. And some of them are even hoping to visit us in the leisure centres when we reopen too, so that's really good. As Leslie mentioned, we're delivering the Love to Move sessions every month, so the last Friday of every month care homes come together, and as you saw, they're really engaging sessions that bring lots of joy to the care homes. And as part of this initiative, we're helping with the digital side of things, so we're providing fire sticks for the care homes so that they can access the sessions virtually. We're really looking forward to being able to get in the homes and support the care staff and the residents face to face. And now I'm going to pass back to Leslie because she's just going to tell you a little bit more about the evaluation findings.
Thank you, Sophie. So in terms of evaluation, it's still really early days. Through the Prosper programme, the homes have been collecting baseline data on the number of falls, pressure ulcers, hospital admissions and hospital admissions as a result for fall. And the homes are continuing to collect that data throughout the work that Sports for Confidence are doing with them, and later Caroline and Active Essex. So there is a hope that we'll be able to use that data to see whether that's had any effect on it. Sports for Confidence are also asking care staff to complete a survey before and their sessions, and then that will have a follow-up survey later on. And we're also collecting the soft quantitative stories, so some of which Sophie's already talked about, but this is the real enrichment to the project and how it's really made a difference to not just the residents, but also the care staff as well. And Caroline sessions and Active Essex sessions will also be asking care staff to give their feedback from those sessions to get an idea as to whether that's how that's helped them and how that's supported them going forward. So that's about it really for the Care Homes project. So I'll hand you back to Rebecca, I think.
Thank you all. Thank you, Sophie, Caroline and Leslie. Really, really helpful and really important, particularly at this time. But actually just you know, in what we're trying to do is to make sure that we do reach those most vulnerable. So brilliant stuff. So we were going to have a question and answer session, but we are obviously running behind time. So what we're going to do is to suggest that if you do have questions, and I know some of you have been using the question and answer function on Zoom, but if you do have questions, if you could email them to us, we will make sure that we share with you an update pack that just shows you the progress to date and key messages. But also, most importantly, all of the key speakers, I hope they all agree, I'm sure they will, email address. So if you do have any questions, that obviously you can contact us. The point behind what we're trying to do is to build a movement. So it's really important to us we share this learning and make sure we kind of reach as many people as possible. But before we go, and to sum up this event and the kind of ambition that what we're striving for, it's really important for us, and I think what's been a really good golden thread throughout this morning is people. So people are at the centre of all of this work, and I know and I'm confident that every single member of the team, the people that we work with, people are at the heart, their heart, and the heart of what we do. So actually, to sum up the event, what we want to do is to hear from people and hear from their experiences of what PEM means to them. So I'm going to hand over to Lindsay, who is going to introduce us to Donna and Chris.
Brilliant, thanks Rebecca. Yeah, just to echo with what you said, I think for us it was really important for the final say to come from people who are attending and who we're learning so much from. And these two wonderful people I'm about to introduce you to have inspired me personally and have taught me an awful lot. So the final word, I think, let's start with you, Donna, if that's okay, to introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
And to say hello, and then we'll finish with Chris. So over to you, Donna.
Hello, my name's Donna. I started attending Sport for Confidence about 6 or 7 years ago, but since it switched over to PEM and Zoom, I have been with them since the very beginning. I'm now going to give you some thoughts on why I think Zoom has been brilliant for all of us. Zoom and PEM has brought back structure to my day of daily challenges of daily exercising, as well as maintaining friendships with those that I had before lockdown. It has also given me routine back of daily exercising instead of becoming attached to my TV and mobile phone, which was something I was really worried about when we were told leisure centres and Sport for Confidence had to stop for a brief while. I also feel that it is important to maintain connections with friends and OTs on Zoom and many other platforms. And I feel that it is really important that they continue for a long time to come yet, because there'll be some out there that really need those connections virtually for a long while yet.
Thank you, Donna. That is fantastic. And I appreciate your time in being here with us today and everything you've had to say. And I'm now going to pass to Chris. So, Chris, happy to introduce yourself as our last speaker.
Hi, Chris. So I'm a Sport for Confidence volunteer and a participant. I've been with Sport for Confidence and PEM since the very beginning, so going back 10 plus years now. PEM and Sport for Confidence have been an integral part of my life since the very beginning. But they've never been more integral now than since COVID hit, and over the last 6 months. They've both been a very vital part of my life, and a vital part for everybody's life who's involved. So whether it be the Zoom sessions or the Sport for Confidence walk, the Sport for Confidence walk in particular has been good for me, because I believe it's vital as an essential for our mental health to stay active and to stay connected with friends and family. And the Sport for Confidence walk does exactly that and more. So whether it's a walk around the track, talking things out with an OT, jogging around the track, stretching and exercising with our coach, or just chatting with friends, chatting and hanging out with friends, it's important. It's never been more vital for myself and everybody there. 2 instances in particular I can think of is I had a lot on my mind one day, and I was walking around the track with a lovely OT, Lindsay, there, who we had a nice little chat, and it was a big weight off my mind afterwards, so that was really important to me. And a few weeks ago, I had quite a heavy physical session. I was doing a lot of jogging around the track with our coach, going in and out of hurdles, and I felt great after that session. It was just the mental and physical release that I needed. And that's what the Sport for Confidence walk and Sport for Confidence and PEM in general do for me and for everybody that goes. So, and they've never been more important than they are. They've always been important, but they're important more now than ever. And they've all become a really important part of my life. So that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris.
Brilliant. I don't think fabulous to hear from you, Chris and Donna, and I don't think there's a better way of summing up the ambition and what we're trying to do and the value from PEM. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Thank you.